Four guys went up to that house for a boys' weekend. On Sunday morning, only three of them drove back. This came to me as a voice memo, 9 minutes and change, sent at 3 in the morning by a guy who asked me to change his name. I'll call him Chris. I've listened to it more times than I want to admit. Chris and three friends, he called them Derek, Mike, and Nate, had a tradition going back 10 years since college. No wives, no girlfriends, no phones out past 9. That was the one hard rule they'd kept since the first trip, back when none of them could afford anywhere nicer than a leaky tent. Every October, they rented the same kind of place, somewhere remote, somewhere with no cell service, and spent a weekend doing absolutely nothing productive. This year, they'd booked a house outside a small town in upstate New York called Pinecrest, tucked against state forest land, 30 minutes from the nearest gas station. They got there Friday afternoon. Beer, firewood, 1 bag of groceries between 4 grown men, and Nate's usual complaint that the listing photos had lied about the size of the porch. It was Nate who found the television. Old thing, boxy, the kind with the curved glass and the dial you had to turn by hand. It was sitting in the basement, unplugged, facing a couch nobody had used in years, judging by the dust. Mike joked, it probably still worked, that these old sets never die. They just get abandoned. He was right. It turned on the first try. What came through wasn't a channel. No station ID, no static fuzz cartoons. Just a fixed shot of a living room, grainy, time-stamped in the corner with tonight's date, and a clock ticking in real time in the bottom right. The living room in the picture was theirs. Same couch, same window, same house. Chris told me they laughed about it for a solid 10 minutes. He still has a screenshot from that first hour. One he snapped on his phone before any of them thought to be scared. The timestamp in the corner, matching a clock in his own kitchen years later, if he ever wanted to check. Some kind of hidden camera setup, probably left by the owner. Probably a prank built into the listing description they hadn't bothered reading. Derek even waved at the screen, and on the screen a few seconds later, his own reflection waved back. That's the boring part. Nothing had happened yet. Except one small thing Chris almost didn't mention. Around 9, the screen showed Nate reaching for the porch light switch a few seconds before he actually got up to do it. Small, easy to explain away. Nate said the delay was probably just a slow feed, a buffering issue, the kind of thing you'd expect from ancient equipment. Nobody argued with him. Nobody wanted to. Here's where it stopped being funny. Around 11 that night, or close to it, Chris isn't fully sure of the exact time anymore. The picture on the screen showed Mike knocking his beer off the counter before Mike had even picked it up. 90 seconds later, in the actual kitchen, upstairs, he did exactly that. Same hand, same angle, same muttered curse word. Nobody said anything for a while after that. If you've ever had a moment where your gut understood something before your brain caught up, you know that silence. Chris said it wasn't fear yet, not really. It was closer to the feeling of watching someone walk toward a door you know is locked. Nate still says, even now, that he doesn't believe any of it, that there's probably some rational explanation none of them thought to look for that night. Chris doesn't say it outright on the memo, but it's there in how carefully he phrases it. Derek wanted to leave the second the beer thing happened, and Nate, the one they always trusted to be the calm one, talked him out of it. Nobody pushed back hard enough. He just won't go back to Pinecrest to look for it. Make of that what you want, and let me know in the comments if you've ever caught yourself doing the same thing, insisting there's a logical answer while making absolutely sure you never test it. They tried unplugging it. It came back on by itself within 90 seconds. Same picture, same clock, still running a few minutes ahead of real time. Derek wanted to leave. Nate, always the one who needed proof before panic, insisted it was some kind of delayed broadcast trick, a loop, something explainable. And he sat down in front of it like he could outstare the thing into making sense. That's when the screen showed Derek walking out the back door into the fog, alone, no jacket, saying something to the camera nobody in the room could hear. He was sitting right next to them the entire time it aired. Chris said that was the part that finally cracked Nate's confidence. Not the coincidence of it, but the fact that Derek's face on the screen looked calm, almost pleasant. He didn't blink once, the whole clip, not one time, and Chris only noticed on the second watch, like he wasn't being shown a threat, like he was being shown an invitation. They agreed, all four of them, that nobody was going near that back door. They moved to the upstairs bedroom, left the TV running downstairs, and took turns keeping watch, which mostly meant sitting in silence listening to the house settle. Somewhere around 4 in the morning, Chris woke up mid-thought about nothing in particular, half dreaming about the drive home, work on Monday, whether he'd left the porch light on, and the room had gone too quiet. The specific kind of quiet that means someone who was breathing near you isn't anymore. Derek's sleeping bag was empty. They checked the whole house, checked the yard with a flashlight that kept flickering even with fresh batteries. The air outside had that wet leaf, first frost smell, cold enough to sting, and the only sound was their own footsteps. No birds, no wind, nothing. No footprints in the frost, which Chris kept repeating on the recording like it mattered more than anything else. No footprints, like saying it twice would make it less true. The back door was unlocked. They were sure they'd locked it. Downstairs, the television was still on, still running its impossible few minutes ahead of the present. But the picture had changed, slowly, like a channel losing signal and finding a new one. And it wasn't the living room anymore. It was a close shot of Derek's face, right up against whatever was filming him, mouth moving fast, clearly saying something, clearly trying to get a message through. There was never any sound. Not once. The entire night, just the picture and the clock. And now Derek's mouth forming words none of them could read. They called the police once they found a signal an hour up the road. Derek was never found. Not that week, not that season, not since. No trail, no car missing, nothing but an empty sleeping bag and an unlocked door. The two friends who came back with Chris haven't spoken about that weekend since, not even to each other according to him. He's the only one who still answers when I message. He told me one more thing before the memo cut off. Back home, months later, his own television flickered once, just for a second, mid-show, to a picture of an empty room he didn't recognize. He hasn't turned it off since. He says he'd rather see it coming than not see it at all.